Welcome in, everyone, to the Bend, Oregon Real Estate Podcast. I am your host, Rob Eggers, Principal Broker here at Duke Warner Realty. 20 years experience selling real estate here in Bend, and I am with my business partner, Katrina Swisher, also 20 years experience selling real estate here in Bend. Katrina, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
You know, this is that time of year where everyone seems to always ask that same question, which is, what's the market going to do in 2023? Are you getting that at all?
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the top of everyone's mind. In fact, I just went to the dentist, and even the lady that was cleaning my teeth was like, so what's the market going to do this year? So super common to get that question. And I have to say that with that, making predictions is the theme of our show today. We are going to make not only price predictions for 2023, but we're also going to make interest rate predictions. We're going to do inventory predictions, number of home sales, and of course the pricing prediction. And I think the caveat I have to make is that making real estate predictions is extremely hard. It's almost impossible, actually. I remember a time, I'll say it real quick, in 2004, I sat down with a broker from another office, and there were all of these subdivisions going in down Brookswood, River Canyon Estates, River Rim, Copper Canyon, dozens of subdivisions, hundreds of homes. And we were sitting down going, where are all the buyers going to come for this? And it's like, this is going to flood our market. 2004, then 2005 happened in 2006, and all those homes are sold out, all of them. And I was completely just kind of blown away. And right when the market seemed like it couldn't get hotter in 2006, we went into the biggest real estate crash recession of our country's history, really outside of probably the Great Depression. So it's very hard to predict the market, but we're going to give it our best shot. And the things that we have to do in order to make predictions are really look at what's currently happening. I think everyone wants to say, oh, just tell me what pricing is going to do. Well, that's great. If you want to just hear what pricing is going to do, you can fast forward to the end, but you're not going to have any of the context of how we got there. So in order to determine or figure out what pricing is going to do, we have to look at the interest rates. We have to look at inventory. We have to look at home sales in order to do pricing. So I think what we'll do is we'll start with just a quick recap of 22, just so we can set the stage for where we're at today. And that's also important to set up a prediction. So right now, how would you describe the year of 2022?
Oh, there was a lot of change in 2022. The year started out really great, still on the same path and speed of the previous 2 years of 2020 and 2021, which were great years. A lot of multiple offers, over listings with still bidding wars going on. Inventory was still super low, but as the year progressed and as we hit the summer, the sales declined, started slowing down. Interest rates started to rise, and they started to rise very rapidly. And that just put the second half of our year on a complete pause. Yeah,
it did. I think what we saw was, I'm going to call the greatest interest rate rise in 6 months. I don't know if there's a bigger one, but it was huge. We went from 3% at the beginning of the year, roughly, to 7% by end of summer.
Shocking.
Totally shocking. And we did, in our office, we did predictions for 2022 in January, and we all guessed what interest rates were going to go to. The highest category we had was, I think, between 5 and 6. Mm-hmm. We didn't even have a 6 category or a 7 category. So no one saw it jumping like it did, and it really just put the brakes on the market. So with that, kind of setting the stage for what's happening in 2022, we also have to look at today. Are there signs of life? What's happening in real estate right now? We're the second week of January. What kind of things are you seeing out there in the market? Is there any signs of activity?
I feel like things are starting off pretty busy.
Okay.
There's a lot of activity.
Yeah.
I have listings that are getting multiple showings a week. I've had multiple different buyers already this year who, are starting to think about purchasing this year.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing that from a lot of other people as well. I think
Nice.
interest rates have started to decrease some. So holidays are over and buyers are starting to, make their move.
Yeah. November, December, January is always our slowest months of the year. So it's hard to really gauge what's happening right there. But we came out of the holidays and like the phones just started ringing.
Yeah. Right away.
Yeah, right away. Like even I showed houses to a guy on December 23rd. That was kind of surprising. And then last week I got a call from two people. One guy wants to potentially sell, definitely wants to buy, and another person that wants to list. So when we're talking about signs of life, I think there's definitely signs of life right now. And a lot of times in January we're quiet.
Yeah. I wrote an offer on January 3rd and there were 3 other offers on the property.
And how long had that home been listed?
About 3 weeks. So not very long in today's market.
But if you think about when it was listed, go back 3 weeks. What was the date roughly?
Right. It was like the middle of December.
Right. December 15th. One of the
Horrible
worst times you can ever list a home. So of course, no one's going to look at it then. But once you say goodbye to the relatives and it's your past New Year's, then it got 3 offers.
3 offers.
Wow. That's awesome.
And I'm hearing multiple cases like that. At other houses I showed last week, and one of them had multiple offers.
Okay.
That week. So I think, big thing is getting past the holidays for us.
Yeah.
Regardless of interest rates and everything else going on in the market, we completely died down over the holidays.
Of course.
But yeah, first week of January and people are ready to go.
So there you go. That kind of sets the stage for where we're at. And we really don't know what's going to happen after every Christmas. Like we don't know if it's going to be slow through January, February. We don't know.
No, I mean, typically we expect to be slower, I think, until March.
Yeah, end of February.
And I think our weather plays a big role in that. When we have a bit more of a mild winter, people are out and about.
That's true. Snowmageddon a few years back really shut things down for about a month.
Yeah, and it's pretty mild right now. So I think people are just ready to start fresh this year.
Yeah. So, okay. So there's kind of where we're at today. So let's look at our first variable, which is interest rate predictions. Right now, as we said, interest rates have just been crazy. I'm going to go over to a website that we utilize quite a bit. It's called Mortgage News Daily. And for those of you that are listening and not watching on YouTube, I'll explain the numbers so you don't have to worry about it. But basically, like I said, we started the year, here it is, end of 2021, we were at 3.2% interest rate. By the time we got to, let's see, October 31st, so November 1st, we were at 7.2. So now, being that it's first week of January, we have dropped from 7.2 down, according to this today, we're at 6.14. That's over a point drop. It's almost dropping right now as quickly as it went up. Like the chart is like straight up and now it's going to go, and now it's kind of aiming straight down. We don't know where that's going to stop. It could bounce up a little bit. It could go down more. We don't know. But to have it not be at 8 right now is huge.
Huge. It's definitely a lot more attractive at just over 6%. Then once we hit 7, the brakes just completely went on.
Slammed.
For everybody. So this looks pretty good right now.
It looks very good.
And I think it's also just encouraging to the buyers of that fear is subsiding a bit more. We all talk about how you can refinance in a couple years. You're marrying the home, date the rate. But there was such a fear factor that played into the end of last year. And I think with seeing the rates come down, that fear is subsiding a bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we're at 6.1 right now and we're January, I think if we drop into the fives, people are going to start pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
That's going to, I mean, everything's a matter of perspective, right? It's like, well, compared to 7, 5 is a screaming deal. And our most recent history was 7. So it's interesting how quickly kind of people change their expectations and adjustments.
Completely. I've been, comparing it to gas prices where now $3.50 just seems so cheap
Right.
compared to what it was.
I know.
And we adapt and people are starting to settle into what these rates are. They're not so scary anymore. They're becoming a bit more normal and the prediction is that they are supposed to continue to get better.
Okay.
From what I'm hearing, typically rates follow inflation. And if inflation continues to fall a bit, so will the rates.
Yep.
And even being in a recession typically is going to work in our favor with interest rates.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so with that, let's make a rate prediction for the year. What do you think rates are going to do this year? Where do you think they're going to end?
From the mortgage partners that we work with, and just the buzz we're hearing out there from their side of things, I think that we are expected to get back down into the 5s.
Mm-hmm.
So I would predict 5 to 5.5 by the end of the year.
Okay. I mean,
just from what I'm hearing from their experience.
That's 12 months from now. And so November, December, in 2 months, it's already dropped over a point and a quarter. So it could easily do that. I'm not going to say that it's going to go into the 4s. I don't believe that'll happen. But yeah, I think that rates will bounce around the 5s to mid 6s for the first half of the year. That's my prediction. And then I feel like they'll trickle into the 5s into late summer, fall. And that's probably where we'll end, maybe mid 5, something like that.
Which historically is, that's a very normal rate. That's a great rate.
Yeah.
We were, down in the high 2s and 3s, which, is just not historically someplace that we're going to stay. We stayed there a lot longer than we thought we would,
yep.
which was really great for our market, but it's not normal.
Yep.
And I think if we get back to the 5 range, that will just really help stabilize the market.
Okay, so there's our interest rate prediction. Let's look at inventory predictions. So inventory is a huge factor in pricing. It's all about supply and demand. If you have a ton of homes on the market, everybody has to compete with one another. And the way they compete with one another is by lowering their price. If there's not that many homes to choose from, then people can keep their prices high. And if there's really not very many homes to choose from, buyers don't have any selection, so multiple buyers are trying to buy the same house and then prices go up again. So right now, we'll flip over to one of our favorite reports, which is the Beacon report. And I'll scroll down here to the inventory. My screen is jumping all over the place. All right, so inventory months of supply. Wow, we are down here at 1.5 months of supply, which is insanely low. All for the last 10 years, we kind of bounced around 2 to 3 months, 2.5 to 3.5 months of inventory. 1.5 months of supply is extremely low. As we mentioned in our last podcast, during the Great Recession, we saw as much as 18 months of inventory at one point. So what do you think about 1.5 months of supply right now in the market?
Well, we're down about half from our peak last year. Our peak was in July, and I think we got up to around 3 months.
It was 2.6 according to or 2.06, so just over 2.
Oh.
So we're down a third, say.
Right. So, but at 1.5, the market there's not a lot on the market right now.
No.
Which we expect this time of year.
Yeah.
We see people take their homes off the market towards the end of the year if they haven't sold. It's obviously not a busy listing time. But that definitely will impact by this so-called buyer's market that we have been entering with. If there's not enough inventory, you're just not going to see that motivation from the sellers.
No.
As much. So
it's going to be competitive for buyers. Okay, so what's our inventory prediction for 2023? What's your guess?
Well, we'll go up in the spring like we always do. We'll see new listings. We'll see people relist who pulled their house off the market over the winter when it was super, or through the holidays when it was super dead.
Yep.
So we always see our inventory start to increase through the spring into the summer being our highest time. But I still don't think we'll go over 3.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we haven't gone over 3 for basically most of the last 10 years. Right. And it's not trending that way right now. We're low. Even though our sales numbers are down, number of sales is down, we're still low inventory. So I agree. I think we're going to probably say around 3 for the spring when we see the new listings come on and last year's listings that didn't sell, and then probably get lower, maybe even again in the fall. Mm-hmm. So, okay, well, let's look at the next category then, which is number of home sales. This is always an interesting one to look at. Again, I'll resort to the Beacon report. And, actually, it's on my sheet in front of me. So in 2022, we had approximately 2,060 home sales. That's residential homes in Bend, 1 acre or smaller. And in 2021, that was a 1.3% drop. So we actually sold just barely less in 2022 as far as home sales go. So now the outlook here in 2023, do you think that we're going to sell more homes than we did in 2022?
I think we might be pretty much the same, possibly a little more if our inventory starts to increase, if we have more homes on the market for these buyers to, buy.
Yeah.
Whereas in 2021, I think the number of sales were impacted by the lack of inventory. We had the demand, we didn't have the supply.
Yeah.
Last year we had a bit more supply, but our demand took a complete, hit in the second half of the year. And that demand slowed down and, people just started pulling their houses off the market if they weren't selling. And, we were facing that correction of sellers who were priced too high and buyers who just decided to pull back. Mm-hmm. So I think that impacted the second half of the year and the number of sales that we saw from July on last year. And I think this year we might see a bit more of a stable market throughout the year, stable number of sales each month throughout the year, which, hopefully will increase those sales numbers.
The one thing I'm a little hesitant about with number of sales, and I'll show the Beacon report here, but again, if you're not watching, I'll explain it. Last month in December, we had 98 home sales. That's the lowest number we've had in over 10 years for a particular month. That's huge. That's really low. So that really stands out to me. So I kind of feel like there's a chance we could be setting up for lower home sales. But December's an outlier month. It's the slowest month of the year, and we had super low interest or super high interest rates. If interest rates get lower, it could correct that pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So I feel we're going to end up, maybe a little bit fewer home sales than we did this last year, especially because the first half of 2022 was super hot. But we had low inventory, so that kind of offsets each other. It's a tough one to gauge, but I feel it's going to be a little bit less. All right, well, before we go any farther, I'm going to mention the sponsor of our show today, which is Duke Warner Realty. So Duke Warner Realty is a premier real estate firm here in Bend that it was established in 1967 by Duke and Kitty Warner and is still family owned and operated to this very day. Duke Warner has served thousands and thousands of customers throughout Central Oregon over the last 55 years, and the brokerage not only features Bend's best real estate agents, but also the most experienced, with the average agent at Duke Warner having 15 years of experience. So if you want your next real estate transaction done right with honesty and integrity, give Duke Warner Realty a call today at 541-382-8262 or visit them online at dukewarner.com. Okay, so jumping back to our predictions, the last thing we have left is the big one, the pricing.
Right.
So pricing took a hit in 2022. I'll flip back over to the Beacon report, and if you look at March, which was basically the peak, March of 22, we hit our median price of $773. That was huge. And even really going back to January we were $683. So a year ago, we were at $683. Then in February, we broke the 700 level. That was the first time I had ever seen the prices at the 700 level. And we remained over 7 from January all the way through September. And it kind of started trickling down, the highest being 773, trickled down to 1 month that was 770, then another month that was 740, then 722. And then in October, am I lining that up right? Yeah, October we were at 680, and now last month in December we were at 678. So as far as what we were a year ago, we're about flat. Mm-hmm. But we had this big rise from March all the way through summer, and then as interest rates, when they got to 7, people that needed to sell had to really reduce. So the pricing came way down. What do you think pricing is going to do? And what do you think pricing is going to do this year? And what do you think pricing is going to be at the end of the year, a year from now?
Well, yeah, we saw a huge correction this year. You know, the market completely changed practically overnight this summer. Mm-hmm. From seeing multiple offers and bidding wars to listing a home and being on the market for a lot longer, 30 days to 60 days. And now that days on the market is increasing. So we had to correct mm-hmm. and reset, but we didn't know what that was.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and
it was hard to find where the new floor was.
Right. So, you know, pricing follows supply and demand. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's really hard to predict what that's going to be this year, but I feel like we have really seen our reset happen here for the most part, because if you weren't priced correctly, you didn't sell after August.
Yeah.
And if you haven't corrected completely, then your home is either still on the market or you took it off the market. So I think we were forced to see a fast and rapid correction. And going into this year, I think we will hopefully start the new listings with correct pricing for the most part. You know, sellers are no longer able to just do what they want. And
right. You can't price your home as though it's March or summer last year.
Right. So, and we learned that very quickly.
You got to look at the comps from the fall.
And it's really hard to price a home right now. Even looking at the fall comps, I'm not sure really what to say about that. You know, we're really going to have to see how the beginning of this year looks to really know what the pricing is going to look like. But I think we have to start on a more conservative side right now for new listings. And ultimately, to answer the question, I think we might see prices, I think, just stabilize more than anything. I don't know that I can say they're going to go up or down that much more. I think we're just going to see a more stable market in general.
So flat.
Pretty flat.
Yeah.
To where we are right now. I think in some cases you might see a bit of an increase. Mm-hmm. We started to see more homes under 500 come on the market last year, and that may start to slip away again if demand starts to peak up.
Yeah.
So
This spring will be very interesting. I think you made an interesting point about how aggressive people can be. They have to be realistic right now, because a lot of times in the spring, people can kind of just throw a number out there just to see what happens, because they have, like, say it's late February. You put your home on the market, you can probably price it a little bit higher because you have all spring to kind of work through. I don't know if you could really do that this year and get away with it. Years past, if the market would kind of catch up with your pricing and it would eventually sell. This year you might not be able to do that. I think sellers are going to have to be more conscientious to price their properties more correctly, not shooting for the moon at all, going by winter comps, because that's really what we have right now.
Yep.
And I think that pricing is going to stay flat or maybe drop just a little bit more. I think that buyers, they kind of smelled blood in the water a little bit, and they're not going to want to let go of that. They've been, beaten down by sellers for so long. They're going to want to try to get good deals still.
For sure. There's been a really unstable mentality between buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out how to meet in the middle. Sellers are still over here thinking they can get this price that was last year's, and buyers are thinking it's a complete buyer's market and they can make low offers.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case.
I talked to a guy the other day who said that, after I spoke with him, he was a little disappointed because it's like, gosh, I was thinking it was going to be like another 2008 where we were going to get everything at like half the value in a few months. It's like, no, that's not going to happen. At least we don't see any indication of that right now. And that was a catastrophic event. So that's completely separate than what we have right now. This is more like a normal correction, not a massive crash that's historic. So I feel like pricing is going to be flat, if not go down a bit. The one thing that could check that, though, is our low inventory. We have 1.5 months of inventory. And as long as that stays pretty low, there's going to be demand. Well, the buyer demand is going to be on top of that. So a new listing comes on the market, there might be 3 buyers for one house again. And that's why I feel like it's going to be in check, like you said, or maybe just a little bit low, because buyers are tired of what's been happening. They want to have their chance to do something. So I think they're going to be trying to make lower offers and not be willing to get into bidding wars. They're going to be too scared to do that again, I think.
I think so too. I mean, there's definitely opportunity right now for buyers in this market to have some negotiating power that they haven't had the last couple of years. So that's encouraging for buyers, but I think buyers also need to, realize with low inventory, you might be able to negotiate some things, but writing lowball offers isn't really the market we're seeing right now.
No, I agree, and that's and it is. We're going into spring, so we'll see what happens. But lowball offer, if you're ever going to make lowball offers, that typically is reserved for the fall when someone's been on the market for 5 months and you're going into winter. And if they don't sell now, they're going to own the home till the spring. That's just not our environment anymore. We're now into moving towards spring. So if somebody finds a good house, they might just have to pay the asking price in order to get it.
Yeah, I think we're going to see more of a normal, stable market between buyers and sellers, where we're on an equal playing field, where there is some negotiating, but it's fair for both sides.
We call that neutral negotiation.
Exactly.
Right? So it's not lopsided. Neutral is, the seller's having to give, some on pricing, but then the buyer isn't be able to get everything that they're asking for either. It's kind of balanced out. I had one person tell me years ago in another company that I worked with before I even got into real estate that a good negotiation is where both the buyer and seller are just a little bit disappointed. It's like they both didn't get everything that they wanted. So I think we'll see a lot of that. So, all right. Well, there's our predictions for 2023. They're in the books. Time will tell. We'll see what happens, and we'll see if we're right. We'll see if our crystal balls are cloudy or if they're crystal clear. So, but anyway, I hope you guys like the show. If you're on YouTube, please comment, like, and subscribe. We'd love to hear your thoughts and comments. And if you're listening on a podcast, be sure to follow the show and click that notification bell so you're notified each time a new show comes out. And thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you guys next time. Take care.